Hey guys, Buckeye Bar guys. We wanted to thank you guys for tuning in to us here on Buckeye Bar Talk. Great show we got coming up today. We're really looking forward to you guys listening and watching it. But just wanted to remind everybody, just remember to subscribe to the channel, hit the all notifications bell, and that way, anytime a new show comes up, you guys will be alerted to it. And don't forget to like the video and comment on the video. All interactions with us helps us continue to grow, and we appreciate your support. Now to the show. Welcome back, everybody, to Buckeye Bar Guys here on Buckeye Bar Talk. I'm Mike.
And I'm John.
Tonight's date is Thursday, September 21st, 2023, and we are just a couple days away from the big matchup for the Buckeyes against Notre Dame. So we'll be talking about that tonight, talking a little bit about the Western Kentucky game first, and then on to Notre Dame, and go through a couple score predictions for big weekend in college football. I mean, a lot of big games this weekend, so that's going to be cool. We got some pretty much, it seems like almost like two decent games almost at every time slot.
So, it's a good weekend for sure. Last weekend was putrid. So
last weekend sucked. So
I'm glad this weekend's better.
Yeah. So, all right. Western Kentucky. The Buckeyes looked like the Buckeyes of old to a lot of ways. They, a little sluggish in the first quarter, and then they let them to slaughter in the second quarter. So it had that kind of that 2019 feel to it.
Yeah.
It seemed like they did that so much. But it was a good game overall. They fixed a lot of, at least, Western Kentucky, but, they didn't have any really the third down issues that they were having, previously. McCord looked really good. I mean, the offense was just, flying like crazy. But I think the most important thing about the game, it was, everybody expected Western Kentucky to be able to put some points on the Buckeyes. I mean, we both did, and to be held only to 10 points. And
I said 17. I
said 20, 21, but I think we both.
I thought it'd be more than 10. So I was happy with the performance.
And they didn't score at all in the second half. And, and basically the whole fourth quarter, they were against Ohio State backups, even though Western Kentucky did bring in their backups.
Yeah.
Too. So, they did. So, they weren't keeping their starters in there, but there are some NFL guys on that offense, and, the Buckeyes looked really good, especially defense. Both on both sides of the ball, but really defensively, I was really impressed with that performance.
Well, and we've seen such a drop off over the years when like third team, second team defenses have come in at all positions for the Buckeyes. Like that's usually when they give up some sort of garbage time touchdown, something like that. Makes the score not as impressive as what it was. And they dominated. So again, like you said, they went up against their third string guys too. So they should be dominating, but it's still, there wasn't a drop off. Jermaine Matthews had a big pick 6 in the fourth quarter. Like seeing that. Difficult play for anybody to make, let alone the true freshman. So yeah. Impressed.
So I think just going off some of the things that we liked in the game. So we'll start defensively. I definitely liked that it did seem like they got more pressure on, the quarterback. They were, at least pressuring him, and that's a big thing.
He hasn't been sacked this year. So
they got him a couple times.
Twice.
Yeah.
Once on him.
Yeah. But that was nice to see that they did hit him a few times. Not everything is sacks. I know a lot of the fan base is upset that they're not getting the sacks. Like I just want the quarterback to feel uncomfortable.
Yeah,
that's more than anything. If especially with the secondary that we have, it's definitely showing that the secondary is legit, and especially when they have the three corners in there, it's going to be very hard to pass on them. With that setup in there. So that was nice to see. It took Hancock a few series to really get going.
Yeah,
they were, but after a while, it didn't seem like any of the three gave up a pass.
No, they look good. Igbinosun, I don't know. I don't actually know how to grade it. Hancock, he had a pass interference, and then he gave up a big completion right afterwards, right?
Yeah. But there was also, I think that was...
But he also created...
I think that was also that might have also been on the safety because he kind of passed him off a little bit on the big completion he gave up.
But I mean, he rebounded nicely.
Yeah, he was able to come back and get it.
Yeah,
he made the tackle, and
then he rebounded from that moment on. I mean, he was pretty solid the whole game. Igbinosun, I mean, he gets to guys. He's very long, so that, I mean, they're both long, but that definitely helps him. He's a sticky defender, so that can get kind of handsy, but that's all right. Knock the balls away. And then Burks
lights up.
He's been
to the point.
Great.
I think to the point, like we're almost like, and we might be there now, that I don't know how much he's going to get challenged for the rest of the season. I mean, he's proving himself. So it's going to fall on the other guy just because I think that whoever Burke's on there, it's probably not going to be a first option.
Well, he better stay sharp because they did that in 21 and then Michigan went right after him and they got a completion over his head.
That's true. He was, he did have a hard, and like what Bell from Purdue didn't do bad against him, right? I think he had didn't he have like 100 yards or?
Bell, yeah, but he
didn't score any.
He had like 15 catches. I mean, he had a bunch of short stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, but he was still just a freshman, and I think he was not expecting, nobody was expecting him to eventually become the starter that season, and the fact that he did that year, and obviously played very hurt last year in different spots, but looking good. Definitely pleased with how he's looking. So he's definitely seems like he's the next big time shutdown corner that they have. So I think he probably is going to start getting challenged less. So the other guys are just going to have to show up. I mean, kind of a way you think about like how Arnett and Wade showed up in 19 when they're basically nobody even challenged Akuda. And, so like, I think that's, they have to just stay focused.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Hopefully it just keeps getting better. Competition is going to start getting harder, but I mean, that was a throwing team. They score points against people. So even though, they're not good or they don't match up talent wise, like Ohio State was supposed to beat them bad. Ohio State did beat them bad. So you can't complain about doing what you're supposed to do. But at the same time, like they didn't give them a bunch of like cheap stuff to make it look, closer than what it was either.
And that's, I think, that's another thing that I really like this year. Even a couple times that it seems like maybe somebody's gotten lost in the secondary, somebody's been there to at least take them down.
Yeah, they're all flying to the ball.
So I definitely like that. So, knock on wood, we haven't had like a stupid breakdown yet. Yeah. So obviously, like you said, better competition's coming, so even though Western Kentucky, I mean, they probably could have made them pay if somebody would have got behind somebody. I definitely like from all three levels how they're flying to the ball. It is like, and that was all over that game last week. I mean, it's like minimum 5 guys are there to make tackles on every time that somebody gets the ball, which very impressive to see. If they keep that up, even if they give up a home run here and there, I mean, as long as the majority of plays stay in front of guys and stuff, they're going to be fine. And this defense is going to be, lights out. And, I think that's definitely, at least through the first few weeks, I mean, people can say about the competition all they want. That's definitely showing, I still haven't given up a second half touchdown or a point. And so, again, that's very impressive to see too, that, they're adjusting. There was, we think about a couple years ago when literally like, did this team ever try to do any adjustments? It felt like, that is definitely different to see so far.
Yeah. I'm encouraged by the whole defense. Like Tyleik Williams is playing the most snaps out of all defensive linemen. Like, well, that wasn't a thing. Like he played 50 snaps. I mean, Steel Chambers was everywhere.
Yeah.
Tommy was everywhere. It's Josh Proctor.
I've been impressed.
Playing solid. So far.
Yeah, I've been impressed with Proctor. I mean, still be nice to see him come down with one of these interceptions one of these days. But
yeah, right.
Whatever. I don't care as long as it's not a guy running by him and him, whiffing on a tackle. Like that is the more important thing. And he hasn't done any of that stuff yet. And so they're all looking good. And the corners are mixing it up with people. The safeties are mixing it up with people. They're there to hit people if there's receptions and stuff like that. And you know what? I definitely want to see them get off the field on third downs and stuff like that. But I also don't want to see dumb touchdowns and, live to play another down. And that's, I think, the most important thing going forward. And some of the other stuff will come too. They're starting to get turnovers. It would love obviously to see a few come this week. But the pressures are there, the turnovers are coming. So, and they'll start getting, and they keep on burying teams like that and getting out in front of teams like that. The sacks will follow because, then it's going to just put a lot of, they're going to have to start really throwing the ball. The other team. The defense is very impressive so far. And on the offensive side of the ball, I think the thing I love the most, it was just that I really like the play calling. They did a lot of things. I think that really, it seems like Day's really starting to get a good feel about what things Kyle likes. And, again, we'll see this week. It seemed like he definitely was starting to get a feel with different running plays that Trey likes. So, that's half the battle. If you can really call the plays that your guys are good at and it can be blocked well, then, that's going to help. This is going to be, a better defensive challenge than what Western Kentucky was. So we'll see how the line holds up. But, that was encouraging last week that they, was able to really get McCord and Trey kind of spread their wings, for a lack of a better term, to, get out there. And
Chip had a big run.
Chip had a huge run. And that's definitely when this team's at their best, that's what they look like. And, they can score in bunches and, again, they tend to put teams out of their misery real fast once they get up on them. And, and that's always, I love seeing that because it makes then the games a lot less stressful.
Right. No, I agree with that. Who would you say then for player of the game offensively?
I'm going to give it to McCord because, I know when Stroud was here that, we said not to take the quarter. That was kind of like our rule not to take the quarterbacks that go with somebody else. But he's still, guy's a fresh face, and he's getting the confidence behind him and get the ball to your playmakers. And he's doing it now. And, and again, like I said, they called a very good game for him. And he was able to get the ball out there to the and guys. And you can say, well, Western Kentucky's defense is what they are, but there's also another side of that. He could have looked bad and, uncomfortable in that game and overthrowing guys, underthrowing guys, and he just didn't.
He rebounded from a fumble that quite frankly was his fault. Mm-hmm. So, and he just came back out. He didn't let it bother him. He didn't make, a follow-up mistake to that. So, yeah, I agree with you. That he deserves it. I'll be different. I'll say Trey just, he had the average to go with 2 touchdowns.
I definitely liked how Trey ran. And I liked how he ran very hard. And, he's never really had a problem. He's just sometimes on some of his runs, he gets a little happy feet and stuff like that. And it was a lot less in this game.
It seems like he's running more with authority. He did make actually a couple people miss. Mm-hmm. He broke a couple arm tackles, moved forward with it. Again, took a swing pass 26 yards or something. So he's always going to be a threat out of the backfield doing that. Do you think, and I know we have a fully loaded running back room, but is there a place where they're building up that Trey could get 20 to 25 handoffs in a game? Or do you think they're just going to stay away from that?
I think they're going to stay away from that because I don't even know. I don't even think they like him to get in that many carries. I think they feel like he's a dangerous dude at 15 carries. And, if they can get him to that spot, that Ryan Day.
Imagine his speed, though, when people are worn down.
I just think Ryan Day is going to get to the point that, and maybe late in games, if games are close, maybe he could start tallying up thing. He ain't gonna this might be a game where he plays a lot more, but and there's probably a good chance to that. But most of the games on the schedule, they're gonna try to get him his 10 to 15, and then they're gonna get him out of there, I think. And as long as they're up and comfortably up, and they're just gonna try to keep the wear off of him. And because, there's bigger things ahead. And, this is a big game and they're going to need him to be, a big time back this this game. And he needs to do it for himself, because there is that stigma that goes with him that, he looks like that against teams like Western Kentucky, and he needs to look like that against teams like Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And, that's kind of been the thing that, and maybe some of that's unfair because of the injury last year, but, that has kind of been a thing that has followed him now for his first 3 years, 2.5, whatever, 2 and a couple games that he's been in Columbus. So, he needs to have a big game like that. And yeah, if they could get to the point where, maybe they get up by 10, 14 points in the fourth quarter. Yeah, maybe I could see him getting to plus 20 carries because they're trying to wear the hell out of them. And, we could get to the spot where we see that in fourth quarters against big time teams. And, if he's ready to do stuff like that. But I definitely I think I like how they're doing. Obviously, I would like to see Dallin a little bit more, and stuff like that. But I do like the fact that I think they've settled on their 2 primary backs, and I think Mayan's going to get his spots where I still think he's probably going to be the bruiser. I mean,
Mayan's a great goal line back.
I think if they get in, I think Day's going to trust him. If they get into the goal line, and against Notre Dame, I think they're going to trust him, and they're going to put Chip in front of him, and they're going to do those type of plays with him. But I also like the fact that they definitely spread the ball out a lot more on some of those short down situations this week. And, they are so dangerous. They even ran, I think, a couple times where they ran with 4 wide receivers, I like the fact when they get 12 personnel and stuff like out there, but show other things too, because you got a crap ton of wide receivers, and putting those guys out there, and that's just better for Trey at times too, with running the ball. And, so I definitely liked where some of the play calling was going.
All right. Defensive player of the game. I think there can be 3 possible answers here, but I want to hear what your thoughts are.
I kind of want to say, I'm between Burke and Steele. I think, I'll go Burke. I mean, he's just continuing to impress me. I mean, I could definitely easily say Steele too, but those are my 2 guys. I definitely like what I'm seeing from Burke. And again, Western Kentucky's a team that can score, and they didn't. So,
Burke's a great answer for that, because he put the helmet on the ball. He created that fumble. Steele couldn't pick it up, but my guy, Tyleik Williams, fat man touchdown. He got.
I like how he pulled that out too. I'm getting this.
Right. Yeah. He recovers the ball. He's just like, no, that's mine. But he got a sack, which, nobody has sacked Austin Reed this year. So I was really encouraged. Just him being out on the field so much, leading the snaps for the defensive tackles. I would have never thought that was anywhere possible going into the season. So I think that's really great. Hopefully he just keeps building from it. Hopefully he keeps dominating teams, because if he's doing what he's been doing, they're going to be really, really hard to stop defensively. If he can give you, if he's in there 50 plays and he can give you obviously you want him being good on all of them, but if he can give you over, 35 really, really productive snaps.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, definitely. Him and Hall are both going to have, because this is, I think, the one place where they could really press Notre Dame this week is, the defensive tackles against Notre Dame's interior offensive line. I mean, the offensive tackles, those are real dudes. And, so the defensive end, which, have had their moments, have had some struggles in recent years. I think there could be spots where, the offensive tackles put them in bad spots and stuff like that. So those defensive tackles, we really need. So speaking of Notre Dame, let's get transitioned into them.
All right, time to turn the page on Western Kentucky.
That's the big one. So that's going to be a big time prime time crew. It seems like I believe from what I've heard, it's going to be is it Noah Eagle? That's his first name, right?
Yeah.
So and Todd Blackledge. So I'm glad to see that they're using the Big Ten NBC crew, the primetime crew. I was really nervous it was going to be the Notre Dame crew and Jason Garrett and Collinsworth kid, they stink. Like, I'm sorry. So from everything I've heard is that it's Blackledge and Eagle. So it seems like that's where because Blackledge has been at practices and stuff from what we've heard. Yeah. So it seems like that's what the crew that they're using. So yay, at least we'll get to hear from, at least knowledgeable people.
Yeah. I always like games that Todd covers. So
yeah, so that's good. So I don't know. I guess let's start with where I really think, obviously the Buckeyes need to score points. You can't win the game without scoring points. But I think where this game is really going to be won is in Notre Dame's offense against Ohio State's defense. That I think that the Buckeyes defense needs to be even when you get in this modern day college football and you get into shootouts and stuff like that, the better defense always is the one that makes the couple stops. I mean, and I know the Buckeyes had the injuries last year against Georgia, and that dealt a lot of it. But at the end of the day, Georgia was the one that, made just a couple, one or two more stops, at least kept Stroud farther back so that, it was a harder field goal to make. And so, obviously, I think that is really where the winning. I think Ohio State could do things to press Notre Dame's defense. To me, from what I've watched a decent amount of Notre Dame this year. I mean, obviously they, Estime is a bruiser. They have a great offensive line and stuff like that, so I think, as long as you can not let him get, easy manageable third downs, I think Sam Hartman will make you pay if you're out of positions and stuff like that. And, and it's hard to compare Wake Forest against Notre Dame, but he's made, he's not a kid. He's made mistakes though, when he gets, into games where, he holds onto the ball sometimes a little too long. He makes some bad turnovers. He hasn't done that this year, but he also hasn't really played a defense this year, and so I think that Ohio State, especially if the offense can get them up on them and stuff like that. And I think there's chances there that, Ohio State couldn't force Hartman into some mistakes.
Yeah. So I'm just going to talk about a little bit of like each level there. Hartman, I don't think Hartman's the type of guy that, or Notre Dame is the type of team that they can kill you with quick strikes. Like, that is to their disadvantage if he feels like he has to get rid of the ball very quickly. Now, I know he can. I've seen him do it before on like play action stuff. So even then, it's still something developing. It's not anything that's real quick, but he's very good at going like down to the flats, to his tight ends. I have seen him, hit a couple long shots this year over the top, seen him miss a couple long shots over the top also. So don't think he has like the most incredible accuracy downfield, but he's good. I'm not taking anything away from him. But I think if, like I've always said, like if the defensive line can absolutely just wreck 5 plays in this game, I think Ohio State wins easily. If they can't get any sort of pressure, though, or they're really struggling to, things are going to start getting a little dicey, even if your secondary is a lot more improved. I just think if you give Hartman a bunch of time, he's going to scan the field and he can pick you apart.
He'll find the open guys.
Right. And you can't. And if you blitz him, you got to get home because he's going to be able. He's seen enough football. Like the guy played Clemson, 5 times. And I know Clemson started teetering off there towards the end.
But they've always had a pretty good defense.
Exactly. And he went against the Venables defense 4 times in his life or something like that. He's played Florida State, which again, they were nothing special for his time at Wake Forest. He's been to ACC championship games. The moment's not going to be too big for him. He's not going to be scared of Ohio State. No. I know he's not going to be scared of Ohio State. So you got to, really try to wreck him. But I don't think if you're making it that he has to throw the ball, after it's just been snapped, like a 2-step drop and chuck it, I don't think that works in their favor. I don't they don't got the athletes on the outside that they're going to make a miss, and they shouldn't at least.
Yeah.
Running room is super talented. I don't think as good as Ohio State, but they're right there. And actually, Estime, like he's a bruiser. What's he average? Like 8 yards a carry or something. I mean,
he's had some big long runs too, but he's one of those guys. And that is
the rest of the room kind of scares me more though, because they're the ones that can pop something.
Yeah.
On you.
But he's the type of guy, if this game stays close and they stay in it, when you talk about a guy that could start hurting you at 25 carries, I mean, this is an offensive line that could start, they could wear down Ohio State if Ohio State allows them to get good yards early in the game. You know, that's where the complementary football, I say, you got to get off the field because, you know, you got to get it back to your offense, and your offense is going to score with it. Because if this is a fourth quarter game with a, you know, an experienced quarterback and you know, and a guy who's going to, then where the body blows are going to start adding up, you know, that's a game where, you know, you start getting a little nervous at that point, and
then you're very susceptible to a play action over the top or something.
And that's been a lot of their offense this year, is they let him beat the hell out of you, and then they lull you into being killed, and then they, you know, safety comes up, and you know, Hartman goes up top, and
they are a very feast or famine offense though, and I know it doesn't seem that way because of the point totals they put up, but they're not a super explosive offense.
A lot of their point, I know Navy, they blew Navy out right from the get-go.
A lot of it's, I think they just wear teams down and they just piled on the fourth quarter.
And, you know, and NC State's a weird one just because of the rain delay and stuff like that, the weather delay. But, you know, last week against Central Michigan, it was a better game early in the game. And then they just, again, they wore them down, and, you know, and then they hit on those big pass plays.
I think that game was only like 28-17 going like to the very end of the third. I think they kick a field goal like at the very end of the third. I think they go in 31-17 into the fourth quarter, but that game wasn't like, they didn't blow them out until like the very end of it. O-line, great tackles.
Yeah, very.
I think Blake Fisher, if you put a speed guy on him, and Kenyatta hasn't played a lot, Caden hasn't played a lot, Mitchell Melton hasn't played a lot. So I don't know, with their lack of experience, what that means, what they can do to him. If they can make a move on him, though, I think he's someone, I think they can draw a hold or get past him. I saw Central Michigan, their end got him, you know, to hold him on 2 straight plays. They didn't call the second one. It was a carbon copy of the play right before it, though. They didn't call the second one, though. So I think, and that's not me saying that they're going to beat up on Blake Fisher. He's a very, very good tackle. But if there is a weakness between the two, or one that you might be able to go after, I'd go a fast guy after him. Yeah. I think your defensive tackles, at least on passing downs, maybe on running downs too, but I think they can wreck the center and the right guard.
Yeah.
That's where their weakness is. Go after it. And then finally, just the wide receivers are good. They're young, though. They're all very young. Merriweather's fast.
Yeah.
The other one, they're not. The other ones aren't really like big. I don't think they're going to blow a game open or anything like that. But you can't let them take advantage of you either. Like, you can't let them be open all day, because eventually they will, you know, get past. They'll get past the secondary guy. Yeah. So very good offense.
Yeah. I think, and, you know, on those passing downs and stuff like that, I think if the defensive tackles could really get some tough pressure up on, you know, Hartman. I mean, he doesn't really strike me as a guy that is able to create a lot when he's under really intense pressure. So I get into his face from the middle, and then your ends hopefully should be there to clean him up, and the, you know, the linebackers, you know, on the outside, you know, force him out of that pocket. And I think that's where you could get him to make some mistakes and stuff like that. And that's definitely where you can have some shots at him, is in the middle. And I would like to see more of Kenyatta and Melton and stuff like, and, you know, Curry to a point that, you know, and, you know, I'm wondering if we are going to see Melton this week. I mean, it was kind of, you know, Knowles kind of had a little sly smile about him when he had his press conference this week that, you know, hey, yeah, there's stuff in the playbook for him. So, you know, and I mean, again, garbage time, but I mean, he looked unblockable last week against Western Kentucky. So, I wonder
if you could slide Jack in over that right guard on passing downs too.
Yeah, and you know, maybe even JT to a point. You know, they don't have to. They don't have to get. They don't have to go to the well a lot with that type of stuff, because you also don't want. You don't want it to become predictable then, where, you know, Notre Dame might try to do, you know, a middle screen or a draw or something to try to, you know, use their aggressiveness against them. So, you know, every now and then, you know, just throw it up there to maybe see, what one of those guys could do on one of those middle guys. But I definitely think that's where the weakness is on Notre Dame's offense. And that's probably the spot to attack them is on the middle.
I would think so. Okay.
Offensively, more of what we saw last week. It's just, you're playing a better team and stuff like that. But this game to me, and, no disrespect to Notre Dame, but out of the last 3 times that I've witnessed Ohio State play Notre Dame, I mean, the 90s teams were different. I remember those games. I was younger and stuff like that. Obviously, I remember the one in Columbus a little bit more just because some of the big highlights in that those gets played over and over and over again. But when you think about the Fiesta Bowl in 05, the Fiesta Bowl in 15, and then last year's game, more so the first 2 games than last year. But even last year, as the game went on, it was definitely obviously Ohio State has the better athletes and they can really put Notre Dame into some weird positions. When Notre Dame's defense gets off target and stuff like that, you can really make them pay. And, they have a solid defense. Marcus Freeman is going to have them in the right spots. Al Golden's a great a really good defensive coordinator. That is where I think that the lack of athletes offensively doesn't hurt them, because if they can play their game, they could take an athletic defense out of it.
Well, they're not overly athletic. They're good in the secondary. Like they are a really good back 4. Their linebackers are very fundamental, above average athletes. I mean, I'm not going to say like they're slow or anything. It's not like they're just, prodding along.
They remind me of a typical Penn State defense.
Yeah,
they're going to be in the positions to make the plays and stuff like that. But you gotta.
But if you get them out in space against one of your receivers, they're in trouble.
Yeah, and you gotta really challenge them. And I think sometimes Day
and their lines just
gets a little too conservative on some things. I think, he said today on his radio program, they're going to let it rip. And, he was very confident last week against Western Kentucky that they were going to open it up. And I should think when he has that mindset, and if that is his mindset going into this game, offensively, they could put Notre Dame in a position that I don't know that if Sam Hartman and Estime and those guys can come back from that type of barrage, because, Ohio State, if they can get up on them by a few scores, excuse me, that I think that I don't think that this is not going to be a game like what Western Kentucky was like that, but I do think it could be an easier game if they could get.
Oh, sure. And especially if Day gets in front of teams, he usually can put them away. I know there's a couple outliers to that. Your first year Clemson and then Georgia last year. But I just like Day. I don't think, at least to my memory, I don't think Day's ever lost a game from being reckless or anything like that. Like, I feel like he doesn't trust himself or the process, which when he calls an aggressive downfield attack, like he wins and he usually wins big. But, and I know Georgia had it was going great for a while last year. And then, things just kind of fell apart. But I think he needs to have that trust in himself in these big games, especially now, because that's how you can really just open it up and blow this team out. They don't have the athletes, at least to my estimation, that they can stay with you if you can keep doing that to them. If you get into, a phone booth and try to slug it out with them, you could lose this game.
Yeah.
It's very possible.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you will, because I still think Ohio State's, just as tough as them, has just as good as running backs. I'm still interested to see how the run scheme and running game actually goes along against what's going to be a bigger, stronger, faster front.
Well, that's why you use some of those passing
and very fundamental linebackers.
Use some of those passing plays to, some of that quick stuff we saw to both the receivers and to the running backs last week. That's where you use some of that stuff to supplement some of that stuff in the running game and, spread them out a little bit and force them to, cover guys in space, and that will open up the running game some.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I'm just interested to see it because, if you can run on these guys, I don't think it's close. I don't think there's a way it's close. If they can get it to a point where Ohio State's running into the brick wall again, and they're only averaging 2-3 yards per carry, and it's not effective, not efficient, and they're still trying to pick up, 2 yards on third down running, and it's not efficient, and they're going in jumbo packages. Again, I think you could be in trouble. But if you can run the ball and stay in front of the chains and just keep everything working, I feel very confident that Notre Dame cannot win a shootout with Ohio State.
Yeah.
And I don't think they can stay particularly close in a shootout with Ohio State.
No, I definitely agree with that. All right, so let's just real quickly, Ohio State, the offense. So we'll say offensively, and then we'll do defensively. They have to do this to win the game, and they can't do this, or they're going to lose the game. Or they'll be in serious trouble. So let's start offense on that one. What do you think? What do they have to do to?
I got two. I'll say I think they got to stay efficient on running the ball, though.
Yeah.
I don't think they can absolutely go one dimensional and just chuck the ball 50 times. They got to be able to run the ball. I feel good about them winning the game if they're able to, average 5 yards a carry.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think where it comes with they have to be efficient with their running backs. Mm-hmm. That could be in the passing game too. If they get Trey Henderson in space against these linebackers, I think he could do serious damage.
I swear I saw over under receiving yards for him was set at 6.5.
Yeah, that's crazy to me.
If he touches the ball once on a swing pass, it's going over 7 yards.
Yeah. And, they have thrown it a little bit more, and, they have mixed in some of the RPOs and stuff like that. So I definitely think be efficient with those running backs, whether it's running the ball and passing the ball. Obviously there's the obvious things that they start having a lot of bad turnovers and stuff like that. Obviously there's thing, I'll say this, I'll go first. If the offensive line looks like what some of the fears have been about the offense line, it could be a bad game. If McCord if he's got constant pressure in his face and there is just no holds for the running backs or anything, I'm not going to say that they would definitely lose the game. I think that, there's obviously another side of the ball, but when you got a veteran quarterback on the other side of it, that could, spell a lot of trouble for them. So the offensive line has to stay on target as best as possible. If, we think that they are improving every week, but this is their first big test. So, we'll see what it looks like.
Yeah. So I'll go kind of like the other side of that, even though you just outlined that. If the moment gets too big for McCord, he's holding on to the ball too long and he's making, dangerous throws where he's not seeing an extra guy and he's turning the ball over.
No.
Or just not making his completions. I feel like he's grown a lot. He's still making some that, he's throwing into double coverage or he's holding it too long and that lets a guy get over there to be a second defender. But I feel like he's grown a lot from what I've seen throwing the ball in that Indiana game to last week where he had a couple bad throws, but nothing got intercepted. So that would be what I would say, though, is if McCord, gets turnover prone. I mean, I would go first offensive line. If the offensive line's a dumpster fire and it turns into 14 Virginia Tech, and that's why McCord's, throwing picks and having issues and getting sacked every other play, then of course I think that's a long night for Ohio State.
Yeah. All right. And then just on the other side of the ball, what do they absolutely have to do and what do they have to absolutely avoid or, try not to do? And
okay, so I'll go first. What I feel like they absolutely have to do is win with 4 up front.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the most important thing, is just win your battles up front. Like I said, be very, consistent, give everything you can, get your push. Absolutely wreck 5-6 plays in that game, but you got to win with 4.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely agree with that. So just to be a little different, it's the next level up. I think that, as long as those 4 are doing their jobs and Steele and Tommy, and I have all the faith in the world of them, but they need to be themselves. If they're themselves, then defense is fine. And like, you know, if they can make the plays because the defensive line is holding up, then, you know, then yeah, they're going to look really good. And then I think to me, the obvious one, and you can kind of go to it. There's two obvious ones to me. It's, you know, the one is on the defensive line, not doing with their job. The other one is, and then, you know, I could also say Knowles being way too like nuts on stuff that kind of makes
me nervous. If they're not getting home. Yeah.
I think, but I'm going to go with the secondary. If they just are letting, especially in the safeties, if they're just letting guys get lost and stuff like that, and, you know, letting Hartman get easy completions, and then where, you know, takes a lot less pressure off Estime to do his thing. Right. You know, that is the dangerous situations. Is, you know, I'm fine with making completions. Hartman's going to get completions in this game. He's going to find open guys. Just be there to tackle them, and, you know, don't give them a lot of yards after the catch. You know, be there to take them down and go to live another down. You know, force them to take their time on stuff like that. Yeah. And, you know, they'll make a mistake somewhere. So, you know, the secondary needs to definitely do that.
And I'm going to steal that one too, because that's really the only one I think of. I mean, obviously the inverse to what I said earlier, if the defensive line gets no pressure and it's just a wall there for Hartman, that's a loss.
And Knowles needs, obviously the defense needs to let him trust them, because so that defensive line needs to get pressures on Hartman, but Knowles needs to trust his guys. Yeah. And, you know, you don't need to be bringing
each other.
If every now and then, if the offense starts putting Notre Dame behind and they are looking really good, okay, maybe throw a 7-man blitz at them just for the hell of it. Just to, you know, throw a big time rush at them just to try to force a turnover. But don't be doing that because you feel like, I don't want them to get in the spot that he thinks that he needs to do that stuff for them to feel like they need a spark. That's where I think they get iffy. If they're going to do that where it works is because the offense is being aggressive and the offense is looking really good, then that stuff could really work. Then that could be a quick instant turnover and a change of possession real fast.
So I would say, though, mine, to kind of like piggyback off of yours, it would be, I think Sonny Styles and both him and Josh Proctor have to play within themselves. You can't be peeking in the backfield. You can't be over aggressive, missing tackles, anything like that. Like that will kill you in this game.
Yeah. And same with Ransom.
He's had his,
those three just need to be their guys. And I think they need to, even though you're going to probably be playing more tight ends in this game. So I still think they're better with the three corners, and then find some sort of rotation with Ransom, Styles, and Proctor for the other two spots. And, you know, and it seems like Styles has practiced some. He did some last week in the game, but it seems like he's also been practicing a little bit as the back safety. So, you know, I'd like to see what that looks like.
Yeah.
And, you know, maybe get a 3-man rotation for 2 spots, but I would like them to settle in on those 3 guys. I think those are the 3 guys that are, you know, definitely playing the most consistently.
You're moving forward with those 3 guys. Yeah. I think so. Okay. So, all right. So we established what wins, what loses. I did want to ask though, what is there anything that they could do that makes you feel okay in a loss? Because it's really hard with Ohio State, because if it's a shootout, that means Knowles' defense gave up too many points. If it's too low, that means Davis probably got conservative at different times. Is there anything that obviously you won't get blown out, but
yeah. But that's the problem. I only see the blowout going one way.
Yeah.
And like, if Ohio State gets into a tough game, like I could see it going either way. I don't want Sam Hartman to be the last man to touch the ball.
No, not with the chance
to win the game. I don't want to see that. Honestly, I don't know. It's not a killer. Ohio State, I know it's still just the 14 playoff. Now there's a chance, you know, if Notre Dame wins this game and then they go beat USC,
they blocked Ohio State.
But I don't think a one loss there has to be other undefeated teams because that kind of removes. I just don't know of a one-loss Big Ten, knowing that Ohio State still is going to play Penn State and Michigan on that schedule.
If they play a competitive game and they go and they win the rest of their schedule, no, they're fine.
Yeah. So if it's a good game and they lose and there's not a lot of nerves, the problem is it's kind of like what you said. If Notre Dame is somehow, if this is a shootout and they're both like in the 40s and stuff like that, I just don't see that makes me really nervous because you're going to play better offenses coming down the stretch with quarterbacks that can really, press you, in my opinion. And if it's like even that last year's game, if it's 21-10 again, say they lose 21-10 this time or 20, we'll say 21-17. If Ohio State only scored 10 points, that would be really, yeah. If it's like a 24-31, 24 to like a 21 win for Notre Dame. Yeah. At that point, that would kind of frustrate me that there's a point in this game, kind of like second half of last year's Michigan game where, they stopped really trying to push the issue they had stupid penalties on the offensive line like they did last year at different points that really like start cutting drive short and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't know. There is no good feeling. It's not a killer if they lose, but there is going to be some question marks for me.
If it did end up like Virginia Tech though, that you lost by 2 scores, but it was just, your offensive line was just young. They were playing a more experienced team. They had miscommunication, gave up sacks. Your quarterback's young. He gave up, a couple interceptions. Do you feel any better then? I mean, again, you're lost by 2 scores, so it sucks, but it's not like your defense was horrible and your offense probably can get fixed. It's just you need more time to gel.
The only thing that again makes me kind of,
but your schedule's a lot harder than what it was before.
It's just that was week 2 compared to week 4,
right?
And Penn State is coming a lot faster on this schedule now than Penn State was coming on that schedule,
right.
And so and if the offensive line has trouble against Notre Dame, and I think Penn State's defensive line is a lot better than Notre Dame's defensive line. And I think that's
at least their offensive line isn't though.
Yeah. And Manny Diaz is a really good coordinator. And so that makes me nervous at that point. So I don't want to see the offensive line look like that offensive line because to me, that feels like there's a lot less time, even though there is a bye in there or the following week. I mean, it does just seem like there's a lot less time to correct mistakes.
No, I can agree with that. Okay. So offensively, unless you got somewhere you want to go with this. Okay. Offensive player of the game for you. Are you ready to talk about that?
Yeah, let's do it. We'll do, I think the offensive player of the game, like I'm torn between 2 guys, but I think if the offensive player of the game is Marv,
it has to be Marv.
They bury this team. Right. Like if Marv gets his touches early and often, like I just don't see how Notre Dame keeps up with them. Like that's and you could kind of say the same thing about Buckeye. If one of those 2 go off in the first half, then I think this game they coast to a win in the second half. I really do that. I mean, obviously Trey's important too. And that's the other one I was thinking of, that they need to establish a running game or something with the backfield, whether that could be in the passing game, but Marv is the one that can really take the top off, and that's where they could kill teams. And, you saw it last week, he goes, splits 2 defenders, and 1 play is a touchdown. And, that game then at that point felt like it's obviously they didn't look back after that. It was a little tight before that play, and it was no longer tight after that play.
Yeah. I mean, I'd said Marv too. I mean, that it has to be Marv. I've tried to, be like cute in the past and say, oh, this guy's going to break out, whatever. No, you got to go to your dude. Your dude has to get you the win in this game. So go to Marv, like you said, early and often. And as long as it's all successful, it's not going to be close.
No.
All right. Defensive player of the game.
I think it's kind of hard for me to pick one. It definitely needs to be somebody on the defensive line. So I will say, and you're probably thinking the same thing. It has to either be Tyreek or Michael Hall. I don't know which one it has to be, but it has to be one of them.
So I'm going to throw out just a different name, so we're not copying each other twice. Because I would say Michael Hall. I think Josh Proctor is maybe. I think he's going to be, because he needs to do a lot of things right in this game for things to go the way you want it to. Because he's going to have to come down and hit estimate. He's not going to be afraid to do that, because he'll run into anybody. And I know Tommy will be there and Steele will be there, but he's going to be huge in run support.
Yeah.
He's got to come down, cover tight ends, and he's going to have to be able to not peek in the backfield. He's got to be able to stay with guys of coverage on those play actions.
And that's why they got to get Notre Dame off target, because
he scares
Proctor's just... He's
itching to kill somebody.
He's not going to be afraid to come down and hit estimate, and that's where the play action can kill you. And so, that's where they have to be worried about that stuff.
Or Ransom at least has to, definitely do his part.
Yeah,
be safe back there.
No, I definitely could see that. You definitely want those safeties. Whoever's the back safety needs to be sound in this game.
Hell, it could just be Tommy. I mean, he might just, he might just handle estimate. I think that'll be a very interesting matchup, because they're going to collide a couple times.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Okay, so we've established what we feel about this Notre Dame team, what it's going to take to win, how you're going to lose, and who we think are players of the game. So let's talk about some scores that we think around the nation.
We'll do some of the big games of the week, and then we'll do the Buckeye scorer, and we'll get on out of here.
Okay. So, I'm just going to pull up the top 25. So like you said, it's a great slate of games. So we're going to start off with Michigan and Rutgers. This one's actually a 24-point spread. It is two undefeated teams going against each other. It's in Ann Arbor, though. So Michigan's favored to win by 24. I don't know. Like you said, when people believe in Rutgers is when it gets real dicey.
There have been people saying that they think Rutgers could upset Michigan.
Yeah, Michigan. I don't know. I think Michigan covers. I think they're going to be playing for Harbaugh, and he's back. So I don't know. I think they're going to cover. Would love to be wrong. Would love to be so wrong that Rutgers wins this game, but I just don't see it happen.
I'll be a little different on it. I don't think it's going to be a close game. But I can see Michigan maybe winning.
24 is a big spread.
3 touchdowns. Shiano's going to do some crazy things in the game, and they
steal possession.
They might get some cheap ones late in the game. I don't know. We'll say Michigan 2021 they'll win. So Rutgers will cover, but they're not gonna. It's not gonna be a close game, in my opinion.
All right, 12 o'clock on ABC. Florida State goes to Death Valley, play Clemson. Florida State is a 2-point favorite. It's hard it's hard for me because of Florida State's performance against Boston College to say they're going to win in Death Valley. They haven't in a long time. I do think Clemson's just. I don't know if you can ever trust them though. So I'm going to say Florida State wins.
I don't trust,
but I would not be surprised either way.
I don't trust Clemson, but I think Clemson's going to beat them. And it's not even necessarily how Florida State played last week against Boston College. Florida State obviously has some dudes and stuff like that, but I think Clemson does have pride, man. And this is a big game for them. And I think that if Dabo lets freaking Riley call a game, I think they could score on Florida State. So I'll go with Clemson on this one. I'll probably be wrong, and Florida State will win by 3 touchdowns. But and then I will never pick Clemson again, and they should run Dabo out of there. But he's won a couple national titles, so that ain't gonna happen,
right?
But no, Clemson's gonna upset them, beat them.
Okay. Another one at noon, Oklahoma, Cincinnati. Oklahoma is a 14-point favorite. I've liked Oklahoma this year, and I think Cincinnati's taken a step back since Fickle's gone. So I think Oklahoma's going to cover that.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, Nippert Stadium can be weird. So there's always that. This is not an original thought. It was on one of the podcasts I was listening to this week. They did say, it was, if you would have said how many years ago that there was going to be a conference game with Oklahoma coming into Ohio, and been like, oh my God, when did Oklahoma join the Big Ten? But that's so this will be a 1-year conference game for this one. No, I think Oklahoma wins and covers. I do think that they are the better team. But like I said, Nipper does get weird, and so if that's a game in the second half, Cincinnati could beat them. But I think Oklahoma will lay the hammer down early and pull away.
Okay. All right, go to the 3:30 games. Number 19, Colorado travels to 10, Oregon without Travis Hunter. We know he's out for like 3 weeks. Oregon's a 21-point favorite. Man, people keep betting against this Colorado team. I do think it's finally going to happen, but I think they keep it closer than 21, even though their defense is pretty awful.
Yeah.
I just think they got a lot of heart, but I think Oregon's going to beat them, but not cover the spread.
I'm going with the upset, and here's why I'm going to the upset. Colorado is going to get their butts handed to them the following week against USC, and I think that's when Colorado's defense is going to be exposed for us. But I get it. They scored 80-something points against Portland State. I mean, obviously that is what it is. They did come back against Texas Tech. I don't know how good Oregon's offense is this year. And I haven't watched them a lot, so that's unfair, to say. But I have actually watched Colorado a lot this year, and I know how good their offense is, and I think they can put up points, and I think they win this game. And so I'm going to go with the upset. They're going to win. I don't know what the score will be, but they'll win this game. And next week's going to be the week I think that that defense is going to get really exposed, when I think USC is going to really be able to really spread them out and take them apart.
Sorry, this is going forever. There's just a lot of games this week. All right, 3:30 UCLA travels to Utah. Utah is a 6-point favorite. They're both 3-0. UCLA has a surprisingly stout defense as of right now. I say Utah wins.
Yeah, I think Utah wins and
covers.
It sounds like, at least from the last I heard, Cam Rising's going to be back.
Okay.
I think that's what I heard the other day. I could be wrong there, but I thought that's what I heard, that it seemed like it was favoring that he was going to be back. So, yeah, I think Utah's a really good team. It's, everybody's, Washington and Colorado are the darlings right now out there. And obviously USC is USC, but, don't sleep on Utah, man. I mean, that team's just so tough, and they come to play.
So tough, right? Yeah. I mean, look at it. They've played more talented rosters 2 years in a row, and they've beaten them 2 times in that season. They handed Oregon their lunch, and then they
same thing to USC.
I mean, USC was close the first one, and then they beat the crap out of them in the Pac-12 championship. So, yeah, I wouldn't bet against them. Ole Miss at Alabama. Ole Miss is 3-0. Alabama's 2-1. Alabama is a 6.5-point favorite. Mike, can Alabama lose twice in Tuscaloosa in 1 year?
No, but they're not going to cover. Like, this is going to be a tight game. I'm not going to bet them to lose again in Tuscaloosa, at least this quickly. I don't know what their later schedule looks like. I'm assuming either Auburn or LSU, one of those are in Tuscaloosa, but
both.
Maybe. I don't know. But
no, because they'll be in Tuscaloosa and Columbus are the same years, right? When they played the last game of the year,
I think, but I can't remember.
But they'll be in Death Valley though, because that'll be in Tuscaloosa too.
Yeah.
Because that's
because we're in an odd year. They played in Death Valley in 19, or in Tuscaloosa in 19.
Yeah. Right.
I don't think that that quarterback situation is very dire. Maybe
that's weird.
Maybe now that what's his face, he'll be starting again. Maybe he'll be able to. He was just not accurate all against Texas.
You got to stay with him though. I mean, he's better than Buckner.
Yeah, he is the better of the ones.
He can at least move your offense.
Yeah, they need to call a different type of offense.
Are you surprised how bad their line is? I mean, their line is huge.
Yeah, some young guys on there too. I mean, I don't know. It's not
something. It's not weird. Working. Yeah.
But they'll win. I think they'll win by like a field goal.
Okay. I honestly don't know much about these two teams. They're both undefeated. Oregon State, Washington State at 7. Oregon State It's at Washington State. Oregon State is a 3-point favorite. I think DJU's have been looking better. So I'm going to say they cover and they beat Washington State on the road. But like I said, I don't know either team, so I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the home team on this one. I'll say Washington State wins. I just think that I like their quarterback too. It's just got the Pac-12, man. This sucks as their last year because they have some really good teams. It's funny. The Pac-12 is like this when they have a bunch of good quarterbacks out there, and they have a bunch of good quarterbacks out there. So that's
someone from the Pac-12 is going to win the national title this year.
I mean, I'll believe it when I see it. I still think the better teams are still in the East, but in the East and the South. But
Washington,
I don't know.
Man.
They can stretch teams. So yeah, no, I think. So
Washington State at home.
Yeah, Washington State.
Okay. Texas travels to Baylor. After that Wyoming game, are you scared at all? Texas is a 14.5-point favorite. Do you think they just bounce back and
it's at Baylor?
Yeah.
Texas wins, but they don't cover. Like I think it'll be a typical. I think this will be a typical Big 12 game. It's going to be a lot of points scored, and Texas will just be slightly the better team at the end of it.
Iowa against Penn State, Happy Valley. Is it a whiteout? Probably.
It's this is the whiteout.
7:30 game. Penn State's favored by 15 points in this. What do you think?
This is going to be like the easiest 10-point win. Like I don't think Penn State covers just because
I don't think they can win by. I mean,
Iowa always plays them so tough defensively, but I don't see how Iowa can score.
Illinois rattled Aller.
Yeah, and Iowa will do that too. And so, like I said, I think this will be the non-closest 10-point win. Like it's going to be like a 21-10, 21-14 game.
But it's not going to be 15 points.
No, it's not going to be 15 points, but it's not. It's also not going to feel close, because that's how bad Brian Ferentz is.
All right, you ready to get down to brass tacks?
Yep, let's do it.
Okay, I'll go first. I've said so many reasons why Ohio State can pull away, win this game by a lot. It's just hard atmosphere, really good quarterback you're going against, really seasoned quarterback. I do think people are kind of like underestimating McCord in this game. With that being said, I think Marcus kind of kicks himself in the ass, though. I think he kicks 2 field goals in this game when he should go for it. I have Ohio State winning 35-33 on the road.
Okay. I've been back and forth with what I think the score is. I think it's going to be a lower score than maybe some people think. I think in one of those middle quarters, might be the second, might be the third, but Ohio State is going to pull away. I think they're going to win. I'm saying 34-20. I think Ohio State's defense. I don't think. If it's a game like yours, that makes me nervous. So I think that Notre Dame could end up with the ball last, and I don't want to bet against Hartman in that situation. But I could see this game being like 17-10 at halftime. And Ohio State coming out and getting a couple big scores in the third quarter, and Knowles really starting to shut them down, and then Notre Dame maybe getting a couple late touchdowns, but. Not really. The Buckeyes aren't really stressed, and they kind of get into, let's let Trey and Mayan or Tripp, whoever, kind of just run the fourth quarter out.
Yeah.
I do think Ohio State's going to pull away in a spot in this game, but I don't think Day is also, he's not Urban in that type of situation when he gets into these type of games. Unless it's like Clemson where he's just trying to embarrass them, and like he did in 20. He will take the foot off the pedal, and I think that will kind of make the game maybe feel a little closer at a spot. It's going to be a close game, and then I think Ohio State pulls away, and then they're just going to try to get out of there with the win. And I don't think he cares what the win. Obviously, he doesn't give a crap with the win. He doesn't need to win by 20, 30, 40 points. Like
I've always said, if Ohio State wins every game by 1 point, they're national champions.
Yeah.
There is no style points when it comes to Ohio State.
Yeah.
You win, you're in. You win, you're a champion.
Yeah.
You think you don't think he'll smell blood in the water, though? You think he'll go?
I think he is going to smell blood in the water, and that's going to be like I said, I think it's going to be like 17-10. He'll get a touchdown. they'll get a turnover and they'll go get another touchdown. And that will be kind of like, I think once he gets up by
a trestle blowout,
once he gets up by like 17 points, I think at that point he feels like that. I don't think he'll think Notre Dame can come back on them.
Yeah.
And like, then he'll start trying to play more ball control at that point.
Okay. Trestle blowout.
Yeah.
I don't mind it. All right. So we both have a Buckeye win though. Anything else before we get on out of here?
Nope. I think we're pretty good.
Well, everyone enjoy the game. Be safe out there. Thank you all for stopping in tonight to the Buckeye Bar. I'm John.
I'm Mike.
OH.
IO. Go Buckeyes.
Go Buckeyes. Thank you for tuning in to this week's Buckeye Bar Guys on Buckeye Bar Talk. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hit that all notifications bell so you see when new content is added. And please remember to like and share so we can grow our audience. Don't be afraid to comment. We want to know what you're thinking and we want to know what content to add for you guys. OH.
IO.